Hi. I had promised that I would get on Facebook Live today, this afternoon, to do another quick video, but I can't get on and I can't post my video live feed to Facebook. So I decided to do my own video that I will upload to my site, and you can check it out there since I like to be true to my word. And I was frustrated that I couldn't get on, but that happens. What I wanted to do today was to talk about this idea of rewriting your story. So I'm posting a lot about this, writing a lot about this. What do I mean? I wanted to kind of teach a little lesson today. We all need multiple ways to hear about an idea before we can really integrate it. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through a little bit of a teaching video to describe this concept. I'm also doing my first Orchid Story Live workshop in person in my home in Virginia. If you live in the Northern Virginia area, send me a message on Facebook through the Orchid Story, or go to my website, orchidstory.com, and send me a message there. And I would love to have you. I'm doing my first one at home so I can get my feet wet and see what it's like. And then I hope to do more workshops after this first one gets under my belt. So let's talk about this whole idea of rewriting your story. I've kind of outlined 3 steps that I think about when tackling this idea of rewriting your story. And I'm going to give you an example of how I'm doing this in my own life, so it'll put some context to it. And I have written about it previously on my site about a different story that I'm working on rewriting. So if you want another example, I have one on my site. So the first step is to pinpoint your old story. And you might know what your old story is. So it's kind of like the thing that's in your head that's weighing you down, that you can't get out of your brain, that circles around and around and around and kind of interferes with your mood, maybe makes you really exhausted and tired at the end of the day. And just anytime you stop to acknowledge what's going on in your brain, it is this story that's on repeat. So you might know what your story is. If you do, write it down. You may not also know what the old story in your head is. So if that's the case, I would encourage you to give yourself some space and time and energy to think about it. And a couple ways of doing that. So one is just to sit for 5 minutes, like you would do for meditation, but literally just sit still for 5 minutes in a quiet space and see what thoughts come up. If it's a story that's really bugging you and bringing you down, it will pop up pretty quickly. If that doesn't work, or that's not something you're interested in trying, get yourself out for a walk. Get moving. Allow your brain to just go. Don't listen to podcasts. I love listening to podcasts on walks, but give yourself just free space to walk and see what thoughts are coming up. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something I've been writing about a little bit that's been going on in my life that I'm working on rewriting right now, and that has to do with my mom moving to Virginia. So she has lived in New York State for her entire life, essentially. She has lived in the house in which I grew up for over 40 years, and so this is a big deal. She will be moving down to be closer to my sister and I. And she has a lot of pretty significant, well, not a lot, but she has some pretty significant health complications. So the idea of selling the house, getting all of her stuff, getting her body down here and moved in, and everything that goes along with that has really been stressing me out. And the way I've been talking to myself about this is that it's a hard thing. It's a complicated thing. It is really stressful. And I've been telling myself this for about a year. And so, yeah, that's basically what it's been. It's been really hard. It's been stressful, and it's taken a ton of my energy. So about, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, I realized I have to start thinking about how I can talk to myself differently about this idea of her moving down here. She will actually be finally moving this summer, but it's been a really long process of getting all the pieces in place. And so this was a story, one of the stories floating around in my head that I knew I had to try and reframe because it was getting in the way of my relationship. So when I was with my mom physically or just talking to my mom on the phone, it was getting in the way. It was creating conflict between my sister and I, which is pretty unusual. We make all of the major decisions for my mom. So we really need to be on the same page. And it was just creating a ton of tension. And I knew a lot of it had to do with my mindset and my mental approach to this issue. So that was my story that I wanted to start rewriting. So that review. First, pinpoint the old story. Second, reframe it. So this idea, the whole idea is to take your old story and approach it from a different angle. So put on a new pair of glasses. This is really hard for me. Just get out of your own way and try to look at your situation from a different angle. Don't ask too many people their opinions because this is really self-work. So you really want to, again, give yourself the time and space and energy to think about how you might approach your old story from a different angle. And so the way that I reframed my old story of this is hard, this is stressful, this is daunting, was to start every time that comes into my brain or comes out of my mouth to start saying, this is a process. My family, has done hard things before. We will get through this. We can do it again. We can do hard things again. And we just need to take the next step. We don't need to figure out like the 100 steps that need to happen in order for this move to take place. So again, my new story that I'm working on now, this is a process. We can do hard things. We are taking this one step at a time. And that piece is hard. So especially if like me, this old story has been like in your brain for over a year, how are you going to go about changing it? Really, it's just listening to yourself talk, identifying that you said your old story. It's okay. We all do it. We don't want to beat ourselves up. But just to say, okay, I hear you, old story, and this is a process. We can do hard things one step at a time. So you're kind of just trying to retrain yourself to make this new story take the place of the old one. And that leads me to the third step, which is to practice your new version. So I like to write about it. That helps me the most. That's how I digest things. That's how I work through things personally. I know writing is not for everybody. So maybe it is some other creative outlet like drawing, sketching, painting. Hand lettering is another one I like to do, or maybe it's taking pictures, maybe it's collage, but try to do something to help your mind connect to this new story. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about how this actually like works in the world. And if you read my writing, you know that I believe in signs from the universe and think that it's really important for us to just kind of keep open to what the world around us is telling us. And so I felt like something really cool happened when I started working on rewriting this story. So we did not have a date for when my mom will be moving down to Virginia. We knew it would be happening summer 2017. At first we thought it might be June, and then it seemed like it might even be into the fall, like September timeline. But we had to make a decision about the house, selling the house that she's in New York. And so we needed a date. We had to like just pull a date out of thin air. This is when we think she needs to be out of the house to get in all of that paperwork to sell the house. So we chose August 15th. It was very random. We just pulled it from a hat. Like, okay, we're going to try this date, August 15th. And so the house was sold. It was a process. And I've, like I mentioned, been working on trying to rewrite this story for myself in the weeks since then. And that was maybe, I don't know, a month to 6 weeks ago. So just in the last couple of weeks, we finally got the move-in date from the community in which she's moving into. And the move-in date is August 16th. So I just thought that was the greatest gift from the universe that we had randomly picked this date of August 15th, and what do you know? They chose her move-in date as August 16th, as close as you could possibly get. It was kind of like everything fell into place. And it's not magical thinking. It's more just believing in the process and believing in your new story. And you have to take action to see what is around you and make a concerted effort. And so I just found so much joy and appreciation in that date, and it really confirmed for me that it is worth it to try and rewrite these stories. If for nothing else, then to just help ourselves get more energy and just to have a clearer focus and time, brain power, and to be spent on other things. So that's the lesson. So let's review real quick. So 1, pinpoint your old story. 2, reframe it. And 3, practice the new version. So I hope today this video gives you a sense of how my teaching style. I hope to be doing workshops and maybe some classes online, keeping open about what that might look like. But again, I'm really excited for my first in-person workshop. It's free. If you're interested, go to orchidstory.com, my contact page, and send me a note. Thanks and have a great weekend.